Good evening. I'm Sarah Holland, President of the Plymouth, New Hampshire Rotary Club and Meet the Candidate event here on Pemmy Baker Television. We'll be hearing from candidates running for a variety of offices of which you will be voting on Tuesday, November 6th, only 12 short days away. This evening's format is live and will include 4 distinct segments: State Senate District 2 candidates, County Commissioner District 3 candidates, House District 8 candidates, and a combined House District 9 and 17 candidates. Each candidate will give a brief introduction, and all candidates will be asked a series of 4 questions. We will remain on air between each segment as our candidates transition on and off screen. Valerie Scarborough will be here to be our timekeeper this evening. She will show her wrap it up paddle with 30 seconds left. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our host, Pemmy Baker Television, for making this evening possible and for providing nonpartisan platform for the greater Plymouth community. Now, in Rotary, we have a 4-way test for things we think, say, or do. A moral code for personal and professional development relationships. This test can be applied almost into any aspect of life, including tonight's discussions. The 4 questions one must ask themselves are: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? I ask that all candidates keep the 4-way test in mind this evening as we move forward with this live discussion. Tonight's first segment is going to be the State Senate District 2, which the state of New Hampshire has 24 districts, 24 senators, each having a 2-year term. District 2 is 15 towns. It includes Haverhill, Wentworth, Ellsworth, Dorchester, Plymouth, Holderness, Ashland, Bridgewater, Alexandria, Orange, Center Harbor, Danbury, Wilmot, Tilton, and New Hampton. Our candidates this evening are Senator Bob Guida, who is the incumbent, and Bill Bolton. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
So first, I'd like you each to start with a 1.5-minute remarks, just a welcome, share who you are, and a little bit about yourselves. So Senator Bob Guida, would you be able to start first, please?
Thank you. Minor correction, it's 27 towns and 3 counties.
Great.
Yeah. So I'm State Senator Bob Guida. I've been serving for 2 years, meeting the needs of our people, institution, and businesses. As a freshman member of the Senate, for the first time in state history, the Senate crafted the state's budget, and I was on the team that did so. We crafted a budget that met the needs that were projected to us by the people during the campaigning 2 years ago, primarily substance abuse and opioids, mental health, education, and education funding. And we drafted a budget that met those objectives, significantly increased spending, as well as reducing taxes. We reduced taxes on every homeowner and every business in the state by eliminating the electricity consumption tax. We reduced the business enterprise and business profits taxes, which when combined with federal tax cuts, brought $100 million of extra revenue to the state, $60 million of which we sent back to towns to help relieve their property taxes in a number of forms. I'm married. I have a wonderful wife, 3 wonderful children. We have a beautiful home in Warren. I served as a Marine Corps pilot in Vietnam era and subsequent. I've served in my local community in a number of positions, and as well as a 3-term stint in the State House as a legislator. It's an honor and a privilege to serve. We've done a great job with the state budget and with the state meeting the state's priorities. I look forward to serving you again for another 2 years.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Bolton.
Hi, I'm Bill Bolton. I'm a long-term Plymouth resident. My wife Denise and I have had 4 kids in Plymouth, and they all went through public school system. I've been a long-term, actually retired state employee. I retired from the state 9 years ago. I worked for the state for 30 years. And I started out in public health. I ended up becoming the director of the Division of Vital Records Administration. Initially that was in public health. It got moved over to the Secretary of State's office, and I retired from that 9 years ago. Since then, I've been an at-home IT implementation manager for 2 software products that went out to all states in the nation, as well as all the territories. And primarily to share data between states and also with the National Center for Health Statistics. Since then, since working at home, I was able to provide more of my time to help our community. So I became a select board member, and I'm currently the select board chair. I've also been on the planning board and different boards and commissions in the town. And I've given my life to public service, and I'd like to continue that as a senator. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you both for that. So a quick icebreaker question. What book are you each reading right now or have most recently finished? Mr. Bolton, would you like to go first?
Sure, and at the risk of pandering, the current book that I'm trying to read, which I haven't been able to read too much for pleasure in the past several months, but it's The Lion of the Senate of New Hampshire by Lou D'Alessandro.
There you go. Excellent. Senator Guida?
Yeah, I'm reading a book called Unbroken. It's an incredible story of a heroic warrior during the Second World War who was shot down and survives Japanese prison camp. He survives like 40 days or so out in the ocean, but truly a testimony to the human spirit and the will to survive, how to overcome obstacles that are seemingly insurmountable. It's an incredible story.
Excellent. I always love a good book recommendation. All right, we're going to jump right in with question 1. And this is going to start with Senator Guida. Why are you running, and how would you do things differently than your opponent?
Okay, I'm running because we've got a really good track set for the state. We're raising revenues like crazy. We're addressing the priorities that the people have asked us to address during the course of the last campaign and the course of this campaign. I'm running because I have a wealth of experience because of a lifetime spent traveling the world, serving as an FBI agent, serving as an airline captain from which I retired, as well as my public service in the town. My family drives my will to serve because I think that the future that we shape is most important. And the future that Bill and I see are entirely different. I see a future in which government provides opportunity, not determines outcomes. That is a very fundamental difference. We're meeting the criteria, the troubles, the problems that the state is having very effectively with funding as well as programs. And for that reason, rather than increasing programs for the sake of doing so, we're making absolutely sure, in my position on the Senate Finance Committee, that whatever we might implement, in fact, is implemented wisely, without wasting money, and ensuring that we have the ability to pay for programs, such as family medical leave. Family medical leave is something that I support. The plan as proposed by the Democrat bill would have gone bankrupt within 4 years. It would have left a $160 million bill on the state's table, and it would have left the families that depend on it in the lurch. And so for those reasons, I'm continuing to work on family medical leave with insurance companies, with the governor's office, with Department of Employment Security, and with unions who are now looking to negotiate potentially, again, not in our bailiwick, but they're looking to negotiate a contract that may include that and enable the rest of the citizens of the state to participate in a voluntary non-government program.
Thank you. Mr. Bolton.
Hi, I'm running to basically because I have served the public for most of my life, and I want to continue to do so as a senator. And I'm also of the frame of mind that I'd like to create opportunity as well. So I hate to differ, but we also differ on a couple of other fairly significant things as well. One of which is Medicaid, or insurance. I am for expanded Medicaid and providing health care to lower income people. My opponent voted against Medicaid expansion, and Medicaid expansion both assures that everyone shall receive public health care, and also there are 3,000 people in my district that currently have Medicaid as a primary health care, and I want to see that continue. And in fact, there's 52,000 statewide that also are utilizing Medicaid expansion. It's also going to be a very valuable tool in the treatment of opioid addiction. So it's a tool that cannot be lost. The other thing we differ with is as far as education. And my opponent voted in favor of vouchers. I oppose that. I'm a chair of the select board, and I don't want to see an uncertainty regarding the type of revenue, or at least the number of children that are enrolled in schools. And vouchers are a threat to at least our public school system. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, on to question 2. What political issues have you been working on in the last 2 years? We'll start with you, Mr. Bolton.
I think primarily the thing that's occupied my time most politically has been my opposition to Northern Pass and the work that we did within our town in that regard. And initially, I've attended a lot of hearings on Northern Pass. Went to the SEC several times, and our town was in the path of the underground portion of Northern Pass, and it was going to go down our main street. So both as a town, we had this significant threat that was going to be probably closing 2 to 3 businesses estimated. And so there was a deep concern for our town. There's also a deep concern about the lack of respect for New Hampshire and our environment and our beautiful mountains, which needed to be preserved. So I did get involved also with going forward with a rights-based ordinance, and I worked with CELDF and with the concerned citizens of Plymouth in order to put together a draft of a rights-based ordinance that was accepted by the town at a special town meeting. And that, in concert with the town's testimony, was able to convince the SEC that this was not worth going forward with. And I'm going to watch that until it turns red, and then and now it's at the Supreme Court level, and when it comes back, I want to make sure that the makeup of the SEC remains the same so that this project is killed. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Candidate Bolton. Senator Guida.
Yeah, a number of priorities. Let's talk about Medicaid expansion. My vote against that was not because I don't believe the indigent deserve health care. My vote against that was because the working families, the middle class working families, are suffering premium increases of 50 to 60% every year, and deductibles of anywhere from $9,000 to $15,000, so that middle class working families are ultimately out of pocket $20,000 to $25,000 before 1 penny of insurance money comes back. We have to stop that. Medicaid expansion is making it worse. With respect to education, our schools are not doing a good job, according to the Department of Education's own website. 66% of our 11th graders cannot reach proficiency in math, and 46% fail to reach proficiency in literacy. 99% graduate, and we hang our hat on that statistic. But if you talk to all the businesses out there, those that are graduating are not competent in skills. They're spending 6 months to a year in either college or junior college to remediate the failures of the high school to educate them to an adequate level. I worked as well on Northern Pass, and the effect, I testified and wrote letters to the SEC as well as to the Massachusetts version of the SEC. Biomass was a big one. I led the charge to override the governor's veto of the biomass bills, Senate Bill 365 and 446. By leading that charge, we saved 1,000 jobs in the forest industry and the ancillary jobs that flow from that for at least 3 years. That doesn't eliminate the problems that they face, but it gives them a lease on life to try to come up with some solutions. So that's what I'm about, the solutions to problems that are thorny and complex. I think we've done a good job as Republicans and as a senator, and I look forward to continuing.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so this is going to come back to you first, Senator Guida. On the ballot, there are 2 questions pertaining to the amendments to the New Hampshire State Constitution. Question 1, if passed, this amendment would allow taxpayers to have legal standing to challenge a governmental action in court without having to prove they were personally affected. On question 2, which was approved 235 to 96 in the House and 15 to 9 in the Senate, just qualifying for the supermajority needed to be placed on the ballot. If passed, this amendment would change the way courts balance governmental interests in gaining access to personal information versus the nature and degree of intrusion on an individual's privacy rights. How would you vote on these 2 amendments and why?
Yeah, I'm supporting both those amendments. Our government at the state level is significantly tilted in the favor of government versus the citizen. The citizen should be able to seek a redress of grievances because of a court ruling that said we don't have standing. That has stopped. And so I will support that, and of course the second one as well. Fairly self-evident to, if you will, elevate the rights of citizens to a scale that would enable them to challenge the options of government.
Excellent. Thank you. Candidate Bolton?
Wow. I'd oppose both. And I'd oppose both because the first one regarding the taxpayers have legal standing. The taxpayer can always bring suit against the town regardless. And I think this actually would invite frivolous lawsuits. And being the chair of the select board, I think we would be kind of gun shy as far as looking to promote new projects and the effect of the expense of that. And you would think that the town governing body, the townspeople, when they vote on a budget, it would suffice to be adequate proof that some things are needed that might increase costs. And if someone were to challenge that, it would bring frivolous lawsuits and more added expense to towns to defend those issues. So I prefer to be in opposition to that. Regarding the privacy, I was the director of the Division of Vital Records Administration, State Registrar, and we oversaw the release of all sorts of private information to people that demonstrated a need, or at least a right to have those records. And this included the federal government as well. So Social Security Administration was getting downloads of data for individuals that gave permission to allow them to issue certificates. So I think that two things. It'll be a threat to those statutes that are already in law that would then be negated due to this amendment. And I have great concern about that. The other thing is this bill was actually contained in a consent calendar that the House voted on. And it seemed like it's not proper procedure to have a bill that needed a supermajority to be contained in a consent calendar when they voted on a bulk thing of bills versus taking it out and actually voting on the merits of that particular bill. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Senator Gaida, would you like a chance to rebut?
Sure. This is about a court stepping in and saying that citizens don't have standing and seeking redress against the government. Okay, and that's really what the problem is. When the courts start legislating, okay, and denying rights that were hitherto in existence, we're supposed to be the masters of government. And when you're denied the opportunity to take government to task for issues which are questionable, and I can think of several, having chaired the Commission on Right to Know reform, numerous issues where towns or school boards are wrongly withholding information. Taxpayers can't get information. If they seek to sue based on the actions, they were denied by this court ruling. So I'm about making sure that government is accountable. And I think that those two amendments will certainly go in that direction.
Excellent. Thank you both. Okay, so we are at the end of our time. I would like to give both of you a chance to issue some closing remarks. Candidate Bolton, if you would like to start first.
Sure. Again, I've had a lifetime of public service, and I would appreciate that would be convincing enough. I also, I feel that people probably do sense a difference of the candidates, and it's kind of apparent. So there's definitely a true choice in this, and I would hope that my experience in both public health and serving the community would weigh very heavily in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Gaida?
Thank you. It's been an honor to serve, and I would look forward to continuing to do so. The priorities that the public has asked us to take care of, we have addressed. We have a budget that's in line with no new taxes and new fees. We need to keep the Republicans in charge, because the last time the Democrats were in charge, it was 100 new taxes and fees and an $800 million deficit. We've done it the other way. We make sure that we spend responsibly. We make sure that we address the issues. Democrats voted against the budget that added $20 million and 60 beds for mental health, that added $74 million for opioid addiction problems, that added $57 million for other issues that were of importance to the public. And so we are solving the problems. We are taking care of the budget. We are reducing taxes. We're seeing the income to the state increase. Remember that we sent back $60 million to towns to reduce your property taxes. Those taxes are the responsibility of the town when you vote at town meeting and school district meeting. The state picked up more of its obligations than it has in a very long time. And we're solving problems left to us by Democratic administrations. We're doing a great job moving ahead. I'd like to be able to continue doing that so that we can, again, serve our institutions, our businesses, and our people so that opportunity prevails. We increase our standard of living. We assist our people to do better for their lives. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you to Senator Gaida and candidate Bolton for being here with us this evening and sharing their passion for serving the communities of Plymouth, of New Hampshire. And if you'd like to view this segment after this evening, it will be replaying on Pemmy Baker Television as well as the Pemmy Baker Television YouTube channel. And don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November 6th, only 12 days away. Stay tuned. We have the Grafton County Commissioner District 3 candidates coming up next.